good afternoon and welcome to everyone who's come to attend our Pathways to Open Source webinar series. Today we'll be covering implementing Koha at your library. My name is Kelly McGillicott and I'm a library accounts coordinator here at Bywater. And I have Jesse here as well, who will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions during this 30-minute webinar, please do not hesitate to send us a quick message and we'll be happy to help you out. This is a great opportunity to kind of look at the process of how we implement Koha to libraries. So hopefully this will answer any of those, burning questions that you have about this process. Okay, one of the most important things that goes into an implementation process is the data. So we have some data specialists that will take your data that you've exported from your current ILS and look at it, analyze it, have discussions with your team at the library to talk about the data that they find, how we can make that data work in Koha, and what's the best way for your library to move forward. Another key component of the data manipulation is just the ability to find the skeletons in your closet, make those changes that you've always wanted to make. Sometimes, we thought we got rid of all our VHS tapes, and guess what? When we exported it, we found a whole bunch. What should we do? Do those even exist anymore? Nope, they're probably in the trash. Or you decided to go with a different organization process. So our data team will work with you through this implementation process to make sure that the data comes over to Koha accurately and as you would like it to. Let's take a brief look at the timeline that occurs. Now, there's just a few little stops along this timeline, but a typical Koha migration is 4 to 6 months. So a lot happens in this implementation process. We talk about the first steps in our process is a kickoff call. We are, a small company. We have a big heart. We love to support our libraries, and our first interaction, face-to-face, talking about your library, finding more about you, and you finding out more about us is really just the platform in which we're going to succeed even further. It's really important that we take the time and talk about how communication occurs, talk about how you can get help from any member of our team, all the tools that we have, and making sure you feel comfortable with those tools. So that's really important, is to make sure that we know that we have the best interests at heart, and you also can talk to us at any point and ask any questions. It's a great opportunity to really get on the same level. Data migration. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to extract your data from your ILS as a test site for us to create a test site. So that is a test load of data, just a snapshot, which we can analyze that data, manipulate it, and start creating a test site for you to play around with, to see your data on a Koha system. During the data migration and training, and we'll get into this further, between this and the timeline, a lot happens. We talk about policies and workflows. We have more conversations about how Koha works, how Koha is going to work for you, what changes that need to happen, whether those workflows are changing or team members are changing and what they're doing. We have a lot we'll discuss in this process. But the next big step is the training. We go on site to your library for 3 days. It's a really immersive situation. We have the opportunity to talk to your staff members and get some hands-on training to those staff members. Make sure there's no questions or hesitations in their mind as you move forward to this Koha migration. The most important part is the enthusiasm that we all can bring to a training, to a staff of librarians who are maybe hesitant. And this training will give them the opportunity to get in and play around with it and really explore. Between training and go live, we have testing. We encourage 100% to get into this test site that has your data in it and play around with it. Encourage your staff members to play with it. Even 5-10 minutes a day. You have access. It's a web-based browser, so you can get on any computer that you have internet. Everyone can have a login, and you can start playing around. Ask those questions, write them down, make some screenshots. Think about your day-to-day workflow and how it's going to work for you. So the most important part is to empower the librarians that will start using this Koha system every day, to get them motivated, to get them feeling comfortable, and to get them at a good place. And then finally, we have a go live where you pull the plug on the other system and you're ready to move forward with Koha. Now, the Bywater relationship does not end there. We're just beginning. We have an opportunity to talk right before you go live, make sure that you're feeling great, any further questions. And then after that, the entire Bywater staff is at your disposal with any questions that you have about customizations, workflows, system preferences. If you decided to start using a new module, that's what we're here for. So just because you went live on Koha doesn't mean that you don't have the resources that you will have during your migration. You'll always have those resources. When I originally talked about the data, that first step is you're going to extract the data. We will migrate bibliographic records and items, authority records, borrowers, checkouts, completed checkouts, fines, holds, serial data, vendor information, course reserves. If there's any questions about what else, if you have some other data, send it along. Ask us a question. We'd love to see it. We'd love to see where it goes in Koha. That's actually probably a good challenge for one of our data specialists, is to figure out how we can make this happen, how we can get this really important data into the Koha system. If you are unsure about a data extraction, we have worked with multiple and many of the big ILS systems. We're happy to help you through that extraction process, either through some tips that we've heard from other partners. So remember, again, we're here to assist you in this process. We went backwards. Organization. This is where we're still talking about that data. We'd love to talk to your staff about how to organize your data, what's coming over. We want to talk about how Koha works, how patron categories are seen, what stipulations go in with patron categories, which you can ball up into a patron category, such as expiration date, if there's a fee, what messaging preferences. Do you want their passwords to expire at a specific time? Are they an organization, or are they just an adult? All of this is really important because patron categories work with item types to determine your circulation rules. So as we look at your data and we talk to you about your data, we're also educating you about Koha. And sometimes in other ILSs, we've had to create certain things because of X. And now we can talk to you about how we can evolve and say, okay, you just need a patron category and an item type, and that makes your circ rule. So if you have 75 patron categories for a reason that you're not sure about, you can always change that. And that's a great way to think about your organization. And then when we're looking at item types, generally that's material type, your DVDs, your VHS, your Blu-rays, puzzles, tools, cake pans, books, audiobooks, large print, and their circulation. How long do they circulate for? How many renewals do they get? And by which patron category? Shelving locations. There's another key component of, your item holding record, that it can tell your patrons and your staff where it lives. Second floor, first floor? Is that in the basement? Is that in the garden atrium? Is that in the tool shed? This is not only helping your patrons, but it's also helping your staff. So you can evolve those shelving locations to be really specific, or to be, maybe you have your shelving locations by color, I've worked with a library that has that, and that, works as well in Koha if you want to do it that way. And finally, collection codes. Collection codes is another way to organize your data outside of, physically what it is and physically where it lives. It could be by genre. That could be your collection code, such as graphic novel. They don't all have to live together. Graphic novel could be in your adult and your teen section and your youth section. It could be in your fiction and your nonfiction. Hey, you might even have a local graphic artist who's created novels, so you have it in your local section. But giving a tool such as a collection code to those items allows, again, your staff, your patrons to be able to search for those things. Maybe you have a state book award that you want to make as a collection, easily found. Maybe in third grade, everyone has to find a specific genre of book, and you have those broken out for your patrons, such as your students that really need to find those poetry books and mystery books. This is, again, not how your data is created in your current ILS, but we're here to work with you through this process to identify what's the best workflow going forward. What could be really cool and fun to do with your current data? Get a little technical here. You're going to create some codes. You're not going to think of those codes too often, but there is going to be codes in your database, and that's how Koha is going to store some information. Codes are not going to be what you're going to see on a day-to-day basis when you're looking at the location or an item type or a collection code. That's really just the database. We talk about making your code short and sweet, 10 characters or less. No special characters. Leave those exclamations for emails or for documents, not in Koha. And then no spaces. Our data team is skilled at creating nice, short, and sweet codes, but we're happy to use the codes that you're currently using or evolve those into something else. I've said this a few times, but this is a really good opportunity to change data, to evolve your data, to make it different. If you talk to your, you were currently maybe at a ALA conference or a PLA conference or your state conference, and you were talking and networking, and you heard somebody did something really unique with how they structured their library or how they structured their material. And you thought, hey, I could do that. Know that you have the opportunity during this implementation to think about how it's organized. Think about how it's simple or not simple. And first and foremost, think about your patron experience. What works best for your patrons? I've worked with Bywater for 7 years, and 5 of those years I worked as an educator. So I would work through this implementation process. And the libraries that thought about these opportunities to change and evolve were definitely successful. They were super happy. There were libraries that had a group of patrons that would test with them, test their OPAC, test that discovery layer, and see how they manipulated, how they used it. And remember that there are staff and there's patrons. So we're going to get our staff input, and we maybe get our patron input as well. Throughout this entire process, throughout this entire implementation process, we're going to have a lot of communication. We're going to talk about your policies and your workflows. We're going to find out what your hold rules are and your circ rules and your calendar rules and how you renew things, and can you auto renew, and do you use claims returns? Do you have book clubs? Do you have housebound patrons that you want to work with? Do you have a curbside pickup process and work? And then we'll start that process of educating you on how we get the housebound module to work in Koha, how we're going to make that so your staff feels comfortable, how that curbside pickup process is going to change once it goes over to Koha, and what's the important parts. We'll talk about your notices and your slips and your overdue process and how you handle lost and your fines. And during these calls, we'll do it through Zoom. We'll have face-to-face conversations. We can have the opportunity to work through, screen share, and talk about the Koha system. We'll also have the opportunity to come on site. I was in a training once and we went back and forth how they were going to organize their collection codes and shelving locations and just how they had it. They couldn't articulate how they had it now, but they didn't love it, but they didn't hate it. And they wanted to figure out a best way. We all just left the meeting room and went into the stacks to see how it was. What do the spine labels say? How do we organize this? What happens? What could we do? And again, that's the best part about being on site. That's the best part about talking about these workflows and making these changes with all the people, with all the decision makers, with all the people that have good ideas. And then another key component is that test site, just having that opportunity to see the data in Koha. I would always have staff members go to that special patron that they had always notes or messages or always had overdues just to see what that would look like. Or let's look at it, what it looks like for our newspaper where we have, 50 different items. How does that look? Or how does it look with our local collection and how can we search that? So it gives us the opportunity to dig down into, again, those workflows. And I'll say that a lot because each library is so different. And this is a great opportunity to say Koha works with all types of libraries. It's just about how to customize Koha to work with your library. There's a lot. I just found out we have over 800 system preferences. The last time I heard it was 740. So we have 20 more, but it's just a great way to start talking about the choices that you have at the library, the things that you can turn on, claims returned on or off, housebound module on or off, curbside module on or off. Then the next step is how we handle lost. Do we take it off the patron's account? Do we leave it on the patron's account? Do we bill them? Do we not bill them? All of this are choices that you have in Koha. And so that gives you the opportunity to talk those through and then also see them in that test site. Testing. Is this thing on? The more you test, the more your staff tests, the more comfortable they'll be. You think about your Apple updates or your Google Chrome updates or your Slack updates. The more you kind of play around with it, the more comfortable you are. Oh, now I can make stickers on my Apple phone. Perfect. I just have to know the steps. And now the next time I won't have to ask my daughter, who's a teen, who knows everything more quickly than I do. But the more I do it, the more comfortable I'll be. Or moving from Microsoft Excel to Google Sheets. Just continue using it. The more you play around with it, the more comfortable you'll be. Workflows. When you're in that testing mode, when you're in that test site, walk through what you do on a day-to-day basis in Koha. Do you handle the ILLs? Do you handle the overdues? How would you do that process in Koha? I do it in my current ILS, then I can move over to my Koha test site and see how I do it. What are the steps? Should I write them down? Should I ask the question, am I doing this right? How many steps should it take? Making sure you know your data. The more you get in there and test and play around, you can't break it. You can't make any mistakes. It's just a sandbox. It's just a little test site that's going to go away at the end of time. So you don't even have to worry about it. I can make a fake patron. I could look at the current patrons and, make changes. And then communication. That's probably the most important part of this every step in this process is the communication. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your questions. We want to be able to give you answers or talk you through the process or re-clarify things. We would love to make sure that you are as comfortable as your staff going through this. And if there's anything that you're not sure about, that's what we're here for. The resources. Koha offers a ton of resources. Because it is an open source software, we have a huge community of users. And therefore, those users volunteer their time in documentation and creating wiki pages, helping in the manual, translate the manual. Koha is translated in over 70 languages. So think about how many manuals that is. The Koha upgrades the software twice a year. So you'll have two manuals. You'll have the newest manual as soon as you go up to the newest version, but you always have access to the older manual when you may be on that older version before you move up. The manual is going to provide you screenshots, step-by-step workflows. It's accessible online. It's clickable right from the staff interface. In addition to the Koha online manual, there are tutorial videos out there. We at Bywater create tutorial videos for when we have upgrades. We create tutorial videos, a weekly vlog called Monday Minutes. Jesse and I do it, where we break down one feature, one thing in Koha and create a tutorial video, 3 to 5 minutes. That's our goal. We want to get it in there, get it in your head. You can find out the information, and then we'll give you further ways to get more information if you want to dig into it further. Then we have overall tutorial videos about just cataloging in general, acquisitions in general. So you have the little ones or the big ones, depending on your learning style. We also create blog posts, written step-by-step instructions, Tango workflows, PDFs, all those that go along with the implementation process, the testing process, but also new features and the opportunities that Koha creates with every upgrade, giving us new features and enhancements. And we want to break those down. So if you're like, I 100% want to use this new feature, such as the electronic resource module, I have the opportunity and the resources to make that happen for my library. Outside of what Bywater Solutions creates for documentation, there are other companies out there. There are other users that are creating resources, and we're happy to help you find any information. Or again, most of this is online and available with just a simple Google search. If you're ever wondering, you would love more resources, that's something that we love to hear from, and we love to create more. Communication. So as I said in the beginning, it's really important for us to communicate goals and objectives and our progress through this implementation process. And then after we go live, we still want to communicate. We still want to hear from you. We have the ability for email. If you want to email us, you can give us a call. We are almost a 50 staff company at this point, which seems insane. So we have people on the East Coast, the West Coast, and everyone in between. So if you give us a call, somebody will answer. We also have a Slack channel. So all our Bywater partners are welcome, and we can send an invite to anybody who's one of our partners. So then you can communicate with other users, maybe other users in your state or in a specific module, such as cataloging or reports or acquisitions. It's a great way to learn more, network, and find out how other users are using Koha or asking simple questions. Koha also has its own listserv, so you can be involved in hearing what people have questions about Koha overall. You can discuss other issues about Koha with international users of the Koha system. There are Koha conferences. There's an annual Koha Con, which is an international conference, as well as there is a Koha US conference, and they have also an annual conference, and they have special interest groups. So you can join any of those special interest groups, and again, just have the ability to talk to others and find out more and get some help, or just sit back and listen. Wow, I only have a few minutes, and I think community is one of the bigger spreadsheets here, or PowerPoint sheets. Koha is open source, and that really just, to me, in my heart, means we're just a bunch of community users of Koha. We're a community of users. We use Koha in a library, whether that's a big library, a small library, a public library, an academic library, a special library, a prison library. We use Koha for our libraries. It's not just in the United States, it's an international software. In addition to just what Koha does, it's also that it communicates and integrates with dozens of other vendors and products to make your tasks easier. thinking about your RFID or your self-checkout machines or your time management software or your overdrive or all your databases or the payments, your patron payments, cataloging such as Skyriver or Z39 or any of the vendors you use to order books. All those integrations work together with Koha and integrate to make your day-to-day life better. Developments. You have your voice. You can be heard in this community to say, I'd love to see this work this way. I'd love to see this feature. Or if you see a feature, an enhancement that's being talked about in the community, you can give your 2 cents and say, I'd like it to see it do this as well. This is as a part of, you can be as much as part of Koha as you want to, but let me tell you, it's super fantastic to see that feature maybe you commented on or you thought of come into fruition. And once that development has been created, it's pushed out to all Koha users. Everyone has access to it. And then just that working together, whether you're going to join a special interest group or you give a comment on a feature or enhancement, or you talk to another library about Koha and how you use it and how great it is. It's the ability to grow that community and continue to make that community strong. Whew. It's really important to note that this entire process, implementing Koha at your library, we've been doing it. Bywater's been around for 15 years next year. I mean, that's pretty fantastic. We've migrated over 700 systems, equaling almost 3,500 libraries. We're happy to have you talk to any of those libraries as reference to see, their vision, their objectives, their pros and cons, something that we would help you through this process. If you have further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I feel like the next slide is probably more important. Contact us, sales@bywatersolutions.com, or give us a call. We're happy to talk to you or answer any questions or give you a demo of Koha at any point. This is just an opportunity for you to kind of see how that process works and see how what to expect. And then we do monthly webinars. So the next 2 months, we're going to do a Koha for academic libraries in November. So it's really just if you're an academic library and you want to see what's great for academic libraries in Koha, come and join us. And then in December, we're going to talk about the electronic resource management module that was introduced in this Koha version, and that's December 12th at 1 p.m. We'd love to see you. We'd love to hear from you. Please don't hesitate to ask us any questions.